you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face.
Oh, I'm from Brooklyn.
Hey, get any...
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
I hope you're ready because we're ready. Good morning, everyone. You're listening to and watching NESSP in the morning with Mac and Jack. And, of course, every Friday we have our NFL analyst, Byron WIlliams coming in, former wide receiver in the NFL. Good morning, Byron. Good morning, Jack. Good morning, everyone out there.
Good morning.
So, yesterday, big breaking news, two of the biggest icons in coaching history. You had Bill Belichick. He parted ways with, of course, the Patriots. He's a free agent now. And Nick Saban walked away. He retired from sports. Both were very close friends. They both coached together at Cleveland. They had the draft picks coming out of Alabama. He would call and talk to Belichick about certain draft picks. That's why they got Mac Jones. I don't know if that was a good one or not, but that's what they did, right? They kind of worked together, even though they were coaching in two different places. So let's talk. We'll be talking about a lot of the coaching fallout on the show, but I want to get a little bit to the NFL games that are happening tomorrow. We got Miami playing Kansas City, and we also got it's what is it, Pittsburgh playing tomorrow? Who's playing tomorrow, Byron?
Pittsburgh at Buffalo.
Thank you. I thought I was right. So anyway,
yeah, Mac, you're really interested in these playoffs.
So I think I don't know if Buffalo and Pittsburgh is going to be a good game or not, but I know Miami and Kansas City will be. So before we get started, like I said, coaching news, let's get to the NFL games. Byron, first, Cleveland at Houston. Cleveland has a great defense, and Houston has a great head coach who's a former defensive coordinator. You got the old guy on one side of Cleveland. You got the rookie and over there with CJ Stroud. So very interesting matchups that are going to be happening here. I think that this is going to be a high scoring game. I think that even with the great defenses that will be out there, Cleveland especially, I still think that CJ Stroud will throw for quite a bit of yardage. Maybe Houston has a little bit of an edge in the running game. And of course, Cleveland with Joe Flacco, who been throwing for 300 yards his last 5 games or something like that. You know that they're going to open it up a little bit. So what are your thoughts on the game, Byron?
I like Cleveland. I mean, I predicted Cleveland the other night on the show, and I just think Cleveland is the defense. I usually look at defenses and head coaches and quarterbacks in the playoffs. And right now, I think Cleveland's going to have the edge in that department. But it should be a good game. But Houston, you just got to take your hat off to them and celebrate them because they had a spectacular year. They kind of wind was out of them when they started playing at the end when CJ got hurt. But other than that, Houston been playing great. Like you said, both team defenses are outstanding. But I think I'm gonna get a nod in the edge to the Cleveland Browns just because of Joe and the way their defense play.
Jack, let me ask you. You think about it, and to me anyway, both teams are playing with house money, right? I mean, Cleveland after Watson went down, everybody thought Cleveland might be done. Houston, first-year coach, first-year quarterback. I think no matter who loses this game, I think the fan base is going to be pretty not happy, but content that these teams still made the playoffs. What do you think?
I think the Houston fan base is going to be very happy with their season, no matter what happens this weekend. I don't think the Cleveland fan base is going to be, not if they lose to a Houston Texan team that's basically a novice team as far as the playoffs go. And they have a rookie quarterback as great as C.J. Stroud has been. The expectations are higher in Cleveland. Houston is the team playing with house money, because the further they go, the more fun it's going to be. And as far as Joe Flacco being a difference maker, come on, guys, you're getting carried away here. He can manage the game fine. Cleveland won a lot of close games early in the season, and that's a little deceiving as far as how good a team they are. They have a very good defense. No one's arguing that at all, a very good defense. But they won a lot of tight games that could have been losses, resulting in them not even being in the playoffs. Which is the team that's on a greater run right now? It's the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans seem to be the team on an upswing. The Browns don't look like the team on the upswing per se, but it should be a close game. I look for Houston to win the game in Houston.
Well, I agree with you, Jack. I think Houston does win the game, maybe something like 30-27 or something like that. But I disagree with the fact that, you're saying they lost a lot of close games. A lot of teams have won a lot of close games. And to me, that a win is a win. I don't care how you win, as long as you win the game and you keep it going. There's a lot of teams, as I said, that have done that this year that are in the playoffs. But I kind of side with Jack, Byron. I give their offense, their running game in Houston and C.J. Stroud a little bit of an edge, and I still think Flacco's going to have a big game. I think Flacco will have a big game against Houston. So we'll see.
Well, Houston does that. I mean, they have D'Amico Ryan's a defensive coach coming from the 49ers.
Yeah.
Flacco's capable of having a good, solid game, and I don't think he's going to bomb out. I feel he'll have a decent game. I just don't feel Flacco goes out and wins you the game in the fourth quarter. C.J. Stroud's the type of quarterback who'll go out and win you the game. Flacco will control the game.
Yeah, I mean, of course, interceptions and turnovers will always weigh heavy in games like these. So, anything can happen when it comes to that. The second game I'm really interested in, Byron, because it's the weather is going to have a big effect, especially throwing and catching the ball. It's going to be 0 what they're predicting, 30 below with the wind chill, so it's going to be windy. It's going to be cold out there. I know you've played in games like that before. It's even worse catching it, in the cold than it is in the rain, especially with the gloves they have on. I don't even know if the gloves will help them when they play this. So, Kansas City, their receivers drop a lot of passes anyway. So, it's going to probably be worse for them. And then you've got Miami that have those two big wide receivers. And I don't know if they're going to be as effective as they would be in a normal game. And, both defenses are decent, are good defenses. I think turnovers are going to be a huge part of this game. And I kind of think Miami's running game might be a little bit better than Kansas City's. What do you think?
Yeah, they said that the Miami Dolphins practicing in 0. They lowered the temperature in the indoor facility, which ain't gonna help. But the wind gonna be blowing and it's gonna be cold. I mean, I played in the coldest game ever, the 46 below in Chicago when they went to the Super Bowl, and it's a different element when you actually out there and the way the wind is blowing, and sometimes the wind shift and that Arctic freeze is coming down from Canada. It's gonna be enough.
I want to ask Byron this because he's a former NFL player. He's been in locker rooms. The players peek behind them because if the Dolphins are looking back, they're going to be half beaten. And this is what I mean. They played the Buffalo Bills at home the last game of the regular season. Had the Dolphins won, they would be in Miami this weekend. they wouldn't be in freezing Kansas City. So it's not so much that they got to play the Chiefs on the road as opposed to the Steelers. They have to go to freezing Kansas City where the players saying, darn it, it's going to be 5-6 degrees. We could have been in Miami. Do players peek behind them, or do they just completely put it out of their mind? And there's some players who are still upset that they're not playing in Miami.
Well, you have to put it out of your mind. You know, no doubt.
But do they? Don't tell me what they have to do. What are they doing? That's what I want to know.
Well, some of the immature players, the younger players probably doing that, but the older players know better. I mean, it just depends on the experience of the player. That's what, in my opinion.
Some of the guys are venting, you think, on Miami. Maybe a Tyreek Hill is saying, darn it, I could have been in Miami doing my thing. Even though he's going back to Kansas City, it's a homecoming for him. He's used to being there.
Right.
But Tua at quarterback, being in warm Miami, holding the freezing ball in KC. I just wonder the mindset. But
you have to have a different mindset, Jack. It's the playoff, and it's you hardly ever get to the playoff. And I just think it overall they gotta have a different mindset. So I think it's just gonna depend on how the coaches can make sure that their players are prepared and ready to go. You still got to play defense, you still got to play the X's and O's. But I'm still thinking that it's gonna be probably gonna come down to who coached the better half or the second half of the game.
Possible. Rick is talking about Miami 0-10, below 40.
Wow.
Before 40. 86-year-old Bud Grant went out in a polo shirt and below 0 for the coin toss a few years ago. Bud Grant, maybe they need Bud Grant back. I don't know, to help them out.
Well, Bud Grant would not allow hand warmers on the sideline. That's insane for the Viking players doing that. No hand warmers. You have to show that you're really tough.
Old-time football, Jack. That's old-time football. He didn't like to wear gloves either. You had the gloves with the holes in them. Those are the guys. Your fingers were out in the cold anyway. Interesting to me, you bring up a point about experience. Now, Tyreek Hill has been to the Super Bowl, but, the Chiefs have some members that were there before. They have experience when it comes to playoffs. And, and throughout the history of football, in the playoffs, a lot of times the team with the most experience that knows how to win in the playoffs are the teams that end up coming through in the end, Byron. And, the younger teams, it's their first time there, a lot of them, and they don't know what to expect with all this stuff. Does that give the Chiefs the edge, or, are the Chiefs kind of in disarray right now? They've been having problems. They've been winning some games barely. They've lost some games that maybe they shouldn't have. What do you think about the Chiefs locker room right now?
Well, I think for sure they got the most experience because they've been in the playoff almost every year. And I just think, Andy Reid being the head coach, I think they're going to have a little bit more experience and be better prepared, I think. I really do. Just watching, the practices and knowing the history of the Kansas City Chiefs. So you have to give the Chiefs an edge because they're at home and they know the win, they know the stadium, they know the dynamics of everything that's going to come into play. And so I just do believe that, with Andy Reid being experienced as he is, I think he's going to be an edge there for sure.
Well, the Dolphins won the playoffs last year, so it's not like they don't have playoff experience. I think for both teams, the Dolphins and the Chiefs, it's a question of finding their way. What happened to them, especially the Dolphins, because the last 3 weeks or so, this isn't the same Miami team. The Chiefs have been consistently under par for most of the year. Most of the year. They just haven't been themselves. They've done enough to win games, but they really haven't gotten it together, especially with their receiving core. I think Travis Kelce did something good. He shut down retirement talk before this game. He says he's coming back and playing football next year. He's not allowing this to become a distraction for anyone to wonder about. He got in front of the situation, which was good.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I think, too, the key factor for the Chiefs going to be the receivers. They've been dropping balls the whole year. They got to step up and got to be more consistent. And then, of course, the running back. They usually have good running backs in the last 3 or 4 games. That hadn't been in place for them. But the receiver, Rice, have really had an awesome year. So I expect him to have a big game. So it's going to be interesting to see who can play in that cold. But with
the main thing, guys, the way one play can juggle the whole playoff picture during the regular season. If Tony wasn't offside in that game against Buffalo, when Kelsey threw him the lateral, KC wins the game. What would the seeding be then?
It would probably be number 2. It would probably be number 2.
It's really interesting scenario.
Well, Rick, we're gonna get to all that coaching information here in a bit. We want to concentrate on the games a little bit, break them down a little bit as far as we can. Byron, there's the offensive tackles for Kansas City have had a lot of problems this year. Patrick Mahomes is running more. He's throwing the ball. He even threw a couple interceptions trying to force the ball in, trying to make the play at the end of the game. How big is that going to be with Miami knows that them offensive tackles are maybe the weakness on that offense, the real weakness on that offense. Do they blitz off that? Do they make the tackles make a decision between blocking down or blocking out? I mean, if I am the coach of Miami, I'm going to be doing a lot of different schemes to try to get them offensive tackles confused.
Absolutely, and that's where they weak at. You got to come in with a scheme to make sure that you have some combination rush, some angle rush, and I think that they got to put the heat and the pressure on Mahomes for sure. And they just gonna speed up the game. And you got to be creative. So you might have to have an extra rusher from time to time just to create some headaches and make sure he can release the ball quicker than he wants to. So that's going to be very important. I think that's going to be a key factor for the Miami defense.
Well, what you're saying makes complete sense, but sometimes we should just oversimplify things. When you're playing in a freezing conditions like we're going to have in Kansas City, it comes down, at least in part, to who can handle the elements better. Who's the cold weather going to get to more? Because that has a lot to do with attitude. It could be the difference between trying to win the game or trying to just survive and hold your own and get off the field, to get out of the elements. And that's not what people want to hear. Everyone thinks, you just got to adjust to the elements, go all out to win. But I mentioned a while ago a Giant player when they were playing the Packers in the NFC Championship game. I forgot who the player was, but I remember reading, he said it got to the point he stopped caring whether they won or lost. He just wanted to get it over with and get in the locker room.
I don't believe you heard a Giant say that. What? Come on, Jack. Are you making them jumps or what?
Byron defended his New York Giants as I expected he would.
No, but look, I do want to say this. Most players have played in cold games. Most players know how to adapt and adjust. And then the coaches, and you have to give credit to the coaches to be able to prepare their teams and the players for these games. I think, I played up in Canada. I'm from Texas, but, you just have to go out there for 3 hours and just focus on what your job is all about. And that's the mindset that you have.
But there's a difference with receivers, how fast they could run, how they hold on to the ball, especially the quarterback puts a little more mustard on the ball on its throws, what it does to the hands, the impact of catching the ball. It kind of explodes into your hands.
But the key factor, too, is going to be the way the wind is blowing as well. I think that wind, that northern wind is going to be a little different to run into.
And the field goal kicking with the wind is crucial.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different things and different examples in history of how the cold weather affects some players and not others. Bob Hayes, when they were playing the Packers, he put his hands in his pants.
Yeah.
They knew they were throwing him the ball. It was a giveaway. But some players just can't handle it, and the ground's going to be hard. The ball's going to be slick. I think this is a low scoring game, guys. It doesn't matter how powered Miami is. Maybe it's 16-14, 16-15, maybe a fumble, maybe a safety.
Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be a lot of it's going to be, and it's a shame. Jack has said before maybe they should play the playoff games or Super Bowl indoors. Maybe he's right, but again, football is an all weather sport. And some teams have gone to the dome, and some
they
teams
should all have dome stadiums. They're a portable dome for extremely cold weather that you could put it on top, like in Kansas City this weekend. they should be playing indoors. There should be a cutoff point in severe weather, like if it's under 25 degrees, hypothetically. I'm just throwing out a number. The retractable dome should come up.
But
I mean, for the fans, just for the fans. You don't want to sit there in 10-degree weather.
Byron, wouldn't that hurt the teams that use that to their advantage? You know, Buffalo doesn't want to put a dome up. Chicago doesn't want
Buffalo, Green Bay, Chicago,
Giants, Philadelphia. They don't want to do that. They want the elements in their favor. So you kind of be punishing the home teams doing that use that. So I don't think it's places like that, Jack. Look at Minnesota. Since they've gone to a dome, they haven't been back to a Super Bowl. I mean, it was a big advantage to them. And, you know,
they haven't been back to Super Bowl because they haven't been that good enough to get to a Super Bowl.
That's why the Giants beat the Vikings last year. We were better prepared for the game.
I agree. So, you know, I mean, listen, I think this is going to be a tight game. I think both games are going to be very good games. Just the opposite. You're going to have a defensive game versus an offensive game. I don't know. Fans like the offense. Me personally, I love a slugfest when it's a physical game. One last thing before we move on, Byron, if you're the coach of the team, you know, and you know, KC doesn't have Bieniemy no more. It has affected Kansas City more than we thought it would. What do you say to the Kansas City Chiefs, all the problems they've had? And if you're the coach of the Houston Texans, being your first time, what would you say to them?
Texans are playing on Sunday. I think the
I just wanted to talk about that.
Yeah.
Well, Kansas City Chiefs, I just think they just pull out some old tapes and say, hey, this is what we're preparing for. And you set a couple of examples, make sure that players are ready to go. For the Houston Oilers, I mean, you talk about excitement. You know, you got a whole new dynamic, and you just show that, hey, we are in a whole new era. And I think this is our new team, and this is what we're going to start history. And you know, you go in there and you start history over, and build a team up from this point on. I think you say this is what we're excited about moving forward. And so that's what should be their focus.
As Jack said, that's a Sunday game. So let's talk a little bit about the Pittsburgh-Buffalo game. Buffalo, a lot rides on Josh Allen. Their defense has been playing really good. Josh Allen kind of went back last week to what he did all year. You know, he throws for a couple touchdowns. He throws a couple interceptions. Is this what Pittsburgh's going to bank on, right? I mean, I know they're going to put pressure on Allen. Pittsburgh has a very good defense, even without TJ Watt. They'll get pressure on Josh Allen. Pittsburgh's got a very aggressive defense, very physical offense. Do you see Pittsburgh maybe upsetting Buffalo?
There's a possibility because I think Pittsburgh went to their strength last week. They went to their running game. They played high-power defense. They have these strategies, these different schemes of rushing and stuff. So if you put pressure on Josh Allen, he'll throw that interception. So now that they know that, so I'm thinking they're better prepared. But, Mike Tomlinson, he does a good job coaching and preparing his team. We'll see what happened. But, I just think you have to give Buffalo credit for hanging in there and coming back the way they have. And being in that number 2 position is pretty good. I mean, you can play 2 home games and be prepared to go to the Super Bowl in the AFC.
All right. And Pittsburgh side, of course, Mason Rudolph, first playoff he started, 2 exciting wide receivers, has a good running game, might help him out during the game. I think this game's going to be closer than people think. I think Buffalo is favored by like 9.5, 10 points. I think it's going to be a lot closer than that. I picked underdog in a minute. So I don't know. We'll rough buff. Oh, Jim's in here. Jim jumps in.
Yeah. Wow. Good morning, Jim.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Wait. Is that Jim's son? That's not Jim himself, is it?
No, that's Jim. That's his real name. Is James.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, it's Jim's coming up with his picks here. So I guess. But keep this in mind. TJ Watt is out. TJ Watt is one of the few defensive players in football who's a difference maker. We talk about quarterbacks being a difference maker. TJ Watt is a major difference maker for the Pittsburgh Steelers. More so than Mason Rudolph isn't going to be a difference maker. He could maybe control the game. no turnovers, perhaps. He could perhaps play well, but he's not going to go out there and beat the Buffalo Bills the way Josh Allen can beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. No way. But TJ Watt could have made life really, really miserable for Josh Allen, and he's not going to be there. So keep that in mind.
Good morning, Jim. I think Buffalo better go back to getting cooked the ball underneath and hitting the tight end and not trying to force the ball down the field. If they do, Jack, I think Pittsburgh has a really good shot at winning this game. So I think they're in it anyway.
I don't think. I think going into Buffalo, I think Buffalo is really, really primed. They have it together. And the Steelers, kudos to them getting to the playoffs. It was a tough road the way they rallied at the end of the season. But going into Buffalo is going to be a big, big chore to come away with the win there.
Yeah, I think the defense is going to be ready to play. Buffalo defense.
Yeah.
And you have you have Tomlin that might be moving on. He might be going.
Who says he might be moving on? Maybe you're right. But when you hear this, Matt, someone put out a rumor.
I'll tell you right now.
Belichick called me. So Belichick called me. That's what I know.
Listen, I will say that my source for a lot of this stuff that has come true has been Sportskeeda. They've predicted a lot of this stuff that has come true, and they're saying Tomlin might step away to go to the broadcast booth. 17 years.
It depends whether he's had enough of football. Sometimes enough's enough. You're just worn out by the whole process. I don't know what he's thinking. You don't know what he's thinking. You have to let on to anyone. Maybe it's correct. Maybe it's correct. And at the end of the season, he's had it. He just wants to move on. But we don't know what he's thinking. He hasn't told anyone.
Listen, if he stays with Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh will be very happy. That's for sure, because he is one hell of a coach.
Yeah.
So,
hey, guess what, Jack? James Jeffcoat, he sound like he predict better than Jim Jeffcoat. So James just said Pittsburgh lead me. So you might not want to go against the James Jeffcoat. So because he seems like he know more.
The man on the street picks better than Jim Jeffcoat.
The last 2 weeks, James Jeffcoat went 7-1.
Oh, James Jeffcoat. Wait. Jim or his son?
No, James is Jim.
But those were meaningless wins at the end of the year. Jim was so out of it. Come on, they were meaningless. Meaningless. It just padded his record. It didn't mean it. He was out of contention. No one takes that seriously at the end of the year.
Right.
Haters.
Jack is a hater. He is. You're welcome.
Jim was going for the #1 draft choice.
So anyway, so Byron, let me get you. We'll have you on. We'll get your picks of these 4 games right now, since you won't be on with us tomorrow. So Miami at the Chiefs. Who you taking?
Well, I was thinking Miami going to go down and upset them. That's what I said Wednesday night. So I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to stick with my pick. I think Miami will be surprised. I think Tyreek Hill going to surprise them. Going to have one of his best games.
Pitt and Buffalo. You got Buffalo?
Yeah, I have Buffalo.
All right. And the game we've been talking about, Houston and Cleveland.
I think Cleveland going to upset Houston at home. I really do. I look forward to Cleveland. That defense just going to be outstanding.
Well, you can't call it an upset, Cleveland.
It's going to be Cleveland Browns then.
All right. And Tampa Bay and the Eagles, I think, is the 4th game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I just don't think Tampa Bay.
Well, that's the Monday night.
Yeah,
NFC games.
Yeah, that's Monday night game. Yeah.
Okay, but you got Tampa Bay.
Game, by the way.
I don't have Tampa Bay. I have the Eagles.
And the Rams at Detroit.
Detroit. I just got to stay with Detroit. Their defense is both defenses are gonna be good, but I just think Dan Campbell's. I'm looking at Dan Campbell to being maybe one of the coaches of the year.
All right. So we got Byron's picks for the record for the week in the playoffs. Excellent. And again, Byron will be with us tomorrow since Jim can't make it. Byron will be in with us tomorrow to go over the games with us. So Keith should be coming in. So let's get to his favorite head coach of all time, Bill Belichick, who is now a free agent. And, so if you want Bill Belichick, you don't owe the Patriots nothing, a draft pick, money, nothing. You don't have to compensate them. They let Bill Belichick go. And Now, I think him and Jim Harbaugh are probably the two big dogs. You might want to throw in Pete Carroll now, because Pete Carroll has done really well with Seattle if he decides to continue coaching. But I think the two real big dogs here are Belichick and Harbaugh. And this is a story, guys, that's going to go on all season through the playoffs into next year. Seattle's selling the team, so it's going to. And next year, as Jim Jeffco has let us know. So there's, this is going to go past that, and they're going to look who is taking over Seattle before they decide to go there or not. So this is going to be a story the NFL is going to have all year, and everybody's going to be saying, when is Bill Belichick going to sign? When is Jim Harbaugh going to sign? There also is some talk that if the Eagles get knocked out, say against Tampa Bay, they may decide to upgrade from their head coach Sirianni.
Whose thought, Mac, beyond yours? You say some thought. That's no thought. That's your thought only.
Look at our page, Jack. Look at Northeast Streaming Sports, and you'll see the source.
You post the stuff on Northeast Streaming.
I like that, Jack. I like that, Jim. Man,
So
I'm thinking that Philadelphia is upset with their coach right now.
But they're not going to move. They're not firing him.
I am saying, Jack, that there's talk that he's having problems with the locker room, that they're not playing for him like they were in the beginning of the year. And if they lose, now there's a lot of ifs. If they lose, if they get knocked out of the playoffs, if they make it a Super Bowl, Sirianni's still there. If they make it a championship game, I think Sirianni's still there. If they get knocked out this first round, and Pags didn't want to hear this either, but I'm telling you, sources have said that they may move on from Sirianni. And who would you rather have if the Eagles get knocked out the first round? Sirianni or Bill Belichick? It's a question.
Bill Belichick.
It's just a question.
Listen, maybe it's not that crazy if they to lose to Tampa Bay and there's complete dissension and arguing. But I haven't heard the talk come out. But there's dissension, within the Eagle organization right now. And let's see what happens Monday night, whether they answer the bell.
Me and Keith have said Pags will jump off a bridge if Bill Belichick ends up the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, because Pags is.
I think Keith Engle, the guy early in the year who, when asked if they have a miserable year, the Patriots or Bill Belichick be gone, wasn't Keith the guy who very confidently said, "Oh no, Bill Belichick's going nowhere"?
That was last year, actually, but this year I wavered a little bit.
Oh, you did? Okay,
a little.
He was wavering in the win there. So,
and to be clear, I do think Pag's head will explode, but I do not think it's going to happen either.
Yeah. Listen, Bill Belichick has a huge contingency of followers and love. Coaches love him, players love him. I mean, he's done more than just coach there at New England. That's for sure.
Well, let me just ask this: Bill Belichick has to be thinking of legacy. Catching Don Shula most wins. Wouldn't he be a little fast-tracked hypothetically? And I got to backtrack on the Sirianni thing. If they could lose to Tampa with all the dissension, it is possible. I'm wrong what I said. You were correct. I was wrong. He can win sooner in Philadelphia than he could, let's say, at Washington. That would be my thought. Yeah. So would that make it more appealing to go to Philadelphia just to get the win, even if he wouldn't have complete control of the football operation?
Of course. I don't think he's going to a place like Washington or Carolina, a place he's got to rebuild, because he's 70. He's going to be 72 years old. He needs 2 years at least to get this record.
You go to Washington, he gets Caleb Williams. There's a good chance as the number. He gets the franchise quarterback.
They got more talent issues. I mean, he's better off if he wants to do that. He's better off of going to Atlanta, because I think there's better talent around, except the quarterback position, which maybe they can address. There's more talent there than there is in Washington, in my opinion.
What I heard, and Rick chimed in. These are what I heard for Bill Belichick. I heard the Chargers. I've heard Atlanta. Those two teams right near the top. The Raiders, I don't think he's going to. I don't think he'll go to Las Vegas. I just don't think he'll go.
No,
I'm not sure, but I don't think he would.
Bad fit.
The Chargers got a quarterback. The Eagles got a quarterback. Atlanta needs a quarterback, but that can be fixed, as you said. That could be fixed pretty quickly. But anyway, so we've got two icons, Keith Engle, TGI Sports Talk, not only a Patriots expert, he's been a lifelong fan, but also the best college football show on the network. Keith, what are your thoughts about Nick Saban? Did you see this coming? It breaks yesterday. It looks like everybody was surprised that he decided to step away.
Quite frankly, I was shocked. I did not see this coming. He's also 71, 72, I think. He seemed to have plenty of left. I mean, he said in his remarks yesterday that he's tired. He doesn't have the same vigor on the sideline and whatnot. And that's one of the reasons he's stepping away. I think this is tied a lot to the way college football has changed, and he doesn't like it. He's participated, where he needs to in the NIL and transfer portal, but he doesn't like it. And I don't think he likes where college football is going. And I think he sees this as a good place to get out. And he is the greatest college football coach of all time. And to me, he's going out, even though they didn't win a national championship, I still think he goes out on a high note because I think this might be his best coaching job ever with this team, getting him where he got him.
So, Keith, Rick Sherlock just said Mayo just got hired by the Pats. I don't know if you saw that or not.
Possible. Again, I said Mayo would be the guy, but I have not seen that yet.
Well, but there was a thought when Mike Vrabel was let go by Tennessee, possibly it would be him, even though they seem to be grooming Mayo.
If they were going to go defense, I would have seen it be those two be the top two candidates. I haven't seen it, so I still don't see that posted, but not on ESPN anyway.
Yeah, I haven't gotten confirmation outside what Rick said.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, you guys have a great weekend.
Byron, have a good one.
Byron, have a good one. Thanks for stopping in. We'll see you tomorrow, Byron. Okay, so he said it just popped in or pooped in on ESPN. So we'll see. We'll see if that is confirmed or not. Not that I don't believe you, Rick. I believe that you wouldn't put out false information. So anyway.
There is a report from NBC Sports, but this is 12 hours ago that they have a contract in place to make Gerard Mayo the next head coach. So again.
It's probably
not a surprise at all. That's the direction we thought they'd head in. But of course, like I said a moment ago, when Vrabel got let go, maybe that would change the equation. You just make Gerard Mayo the assistant coach and bump up his pay or something,
Yeah, I think Vrabel will have a job this year, by the way, if he wants one.
Oh, yeah, he'll have a head coaching job.
If he wants
There's no doubt about that. What did you feel? I from what I understand too, I saw Saban on ESPN yesterday. It looks like he wants to go be a commentator on a college football, one of their networks. So that doesn't surprise me at all. I figured he's done a good job when he's done on ESPN Game Day. He's often come on the panel when they're in Alabama or whatever, and he always does a very good job. He's a personable guy when you get him in that type of atmosphere. Yeah. Now, Alabama's got to move fairly quickly here because they've already had a couple of 5-star recruits decommit, so they can't wait forever here. Hold on, Jack. Just on Get Up, they just said Patriots did hire Gerard Mayo as head coach. So,
very good. Good job, Rick.
All right. Way to be. So there you go. So Patriots now have their head coach. What do you think happens with Belichick's sons? Does he stay with the Patriots or does he move with their father?
No, I think Steve Belichick and his brother are both going to be wherever Bill goes, they're going to go. There's no way I think they're going to stay here unless for some reason Gerard Mayo loves these two kids. I can't see them staying. I think that'd be, look at yesterday's press conference was all roses and whatnot, right? We had an amicable parting, but just like with Pete Carroll, Bill Belichick got fired. We can't. There's no way to put. You can put, lipstick on a pig. Excuse me, it's still a pig. Right. He got fired, right? Because he wanted to stay. He made it clear for the last month he wanted to stay.
Right.
Even said he'd take less power, and he's still gone. So this was a nice way to go out without a lot of animosity. But at the end of the day, he got fired.
A couple of things. Robert Kraft not asking for compensation by trading him is the correct. It was a classy thing to do, but it was the correct thing to do. Had he asked for compensation, that kind of would have been a little low. The guy's been with you 24 years, had all that success. let him go free and clear, the way they did with Tom Brady, where they worked out an arrangement. Also, with Bill Belichick, we kind of thought of him as an East Coast guy, even though he might go down south to Atlanta, the Washington Commanders. Would he go all the way to the West Coast of the LA Chargers? But consider this, based on what Keith said a moment ago. If his sons follow him, he could go to LA. He's got family with him there.
Mm-hmm.
So that might change the equation a little bit. He's not going to feel separated from family. So that might factor into it. Also, with Mike Vrabel becoming available, guys, and you're the Washington Commanders, wouldn't he be a better choice than Belichick? He'd be a better long-term choice. I would go in the direction of Mike Vrabel if I were to command ownership.
I think that's a great direction for Washington if they wanted to go that way, for sure.
Either that or Atlanta. Either that or Atlanta.
Or Atlanta.
They'll have a young quarterback there too, which you can work with.
I think Pete Carroll's going to be in a conversation for the Atlanta job as well. I don't think he's done. Again,
let me give you the all-star. Let me give you the all-star coaching staff here. You know, Belichick goes to the Chargers. He brings Nick Saban out of retirement. They work together again.
Get out of here,
Pete
man.
Carroll,
talk about what happened.
Yeah, Pete Carroll would be, their other assistant head coach. That would be awesome. So.
Yeah, right. It makes more sense to say Belichick will go to the University of Alabama, start a college career with Nick Saban being by his side.
I would.
Come on.
I would fully expect, by the way, Josh McDaniel either end up with Bill Belichick or back with the Patriots next year.
Possible. That's very possible.
I think one of those two things will happen.
Well, that's if Gerard Mayo has a close relationship.
I don't know their relationship for sure. It's probably better than Buddy Ryan and Kevin Gilbride back in the day, I'm assuming. But
So, Keith, before replacing Nick Saban, I asked Jack this, and Jack's not sure, neither am I. Do they replace Nick Saban from within in the coaching staff and kind of keep things going as it is? Or do they bring in somebody like Debo Sweeney that was there before, that is another big high-profile coach? What do you think happens there?
There's a couple of variables here. First of all, they need to make a decision quickly because they're starting to lose recruits already since this news broke, and they can't let that keep bleeding in that direction. Dabo Sweeney's been mentioned for this job as the heir apparent for half a decade now, to be the guy to replace Nick Saban. The problem there is Dabo will not embrace today's college football. This is why Clemson has taken a step back. I mean, it's still a good program, but he will not embrace the NIL. He will not embrace the transfer portal. And if he doesn't, I don't see any way they're going to give him this job.
That's Keith, a report.
Other guys, real quick. Other guys, Dan Lanning name came up. In fact, on my college football shows, one of my followers who's very close with the SEC said they had already had their eyes in an agreement with Dan Lanning, and Dan Lanning said yesterday he's not leaving Oregon, so he's out.
Right.
The coordinators, I don't think Tommy Reese is not going to get this job. He's been there a year, and he's in his 30s. He's not getting this job. Name came up last night that's very interesting. Mike Norvell from Florida State is a guy to keep your eye on here, potentially. So
didn't they just get a bunch of what is it, sanctions or something for what they did in the NIL? Florida State. So one of them just got nailed by the NCAA for some infractions.
Well, that doesn't mean the head coach won't go somewhere else.
Guys, the two factors that come into play. Reportedly, Nick Saban was interviewing his assistants for the job. Reportedly. That's number one. Number two, we can all agree on this. Nick Saban is one of the biggest coaching icons of all time. There are very few true coaching icons. Let's compare him to Coach K in basketball. Coach K was allowed to pick his successor. When you have an icon like Nick Saban, you don't go outside the program and pick his successor.
You know what?
Nick Saban might not be happy with. I think Nick Saban, it's going to be his decision at the end. He's going to have the most pull.
I think there's something to that, Jack, but the problem with that is my gut says if that was going to happen, it would have happened all at the same time. He would have stepped down and said, so-and-so's taking my place. That's what happened with Mike Krzyzewski. That's what normally happens.
Keith, 3 weeks ago, Nick Saban might not have been ready to come to this decision. It may have finally happened very quickly. Enough is enough. You know, he wants to just retire from coaching. I mean, I think it took something out of him, the Michigan game, the loss. Close loss, heartbreaking. He figured out, I don't want to go through this again. It sometimes all of a sudden hits you. You just don't want to be in that job anymore.
You know, the thing is, too, it's not easy to be the guy that follows the guy. This happened. Everybody thinks, and I have this argument with people all the time. They go, when I talk about Nick Saban being the greatest college football coach of all time, they say, well, he coached at Alabama. Anybody can win at Alabama. Well, that's not true. No. It took him nearly 20 years to find a full-time replacement for Bear Bryant. Gene Stallings had some success there, but they went through Ray Perkins and Du Bois, and Mike Price didn't ever even coach a game because he went to a strip club right after he signed his contract and got fired. One of the Shulas, Mike Shula, I think, coached there very unsuccessfully. So they went through about Dennis Franciona. They went through like 7 or 8 coaches before they got to Nick Saban and got to the next great guy.
An established coach with a really good reputation isn't going to want that job at Alabama, because that would be the equivalent of, what was his name, Tim Floyd taking over the Chicago Bulls the year after Jordan and Phil Jackson left. It's a thankless job. I mean, very hard. No win.
The first guy to replace him, I'm sure Mac remembers, was Ray Perkins, who had started to turn the Giants around before Bill Parcells got there, and he was an Alabama alum, and he had a tough time there for 3 years.
Even with the winning record, I mean, you had certain teams they want you to beat, and you've got to win the national championship. They don't want to hear that you had a good season.
Exactly.
They don't want to hear that stuff.
And he left Alabama for Tampa Bay, by the way, which was terrible at the time. So that tells you how much he wanted out.
So I listen. I agree. Nick Saban may be the greatest football coach, period, ever. I mean,
possible.
Count that with college and there. But he said, and you said, Keith, before on the show, that it's the portal. It's just the portal. You're not coaching anymore. You're just recruiting and
so you work hard to bring these 18-year-old kids in, and then in a year from now they're gone somewhere else.
It's sort of like college. It's sort of like college basketball, right? 1 year and see you later.
Well,
it's changed. Yeah. It's changed the outlook of college football. And if you're not good at it, if you're not a Deion Sanders who just on the way he runs things alone, if you're not somebody like that who doesn't mind all that, you're not going to want to. You're not going to be.
By the way, Nick Saban's influence on college football has been huge. It's not just on Alabama in the last 17 years.
Sure.
I mean, SEC was a really good conference. Don't get me wrong, but he's raised the profile of that conference far above everybody else. At this point, or help do that.
Just like Nick Saban, I've seen just like Bill Belichick. Their influence on players and coaches has been tremendous. I mean, the bubble, the butterfly effect, if you will, of everybody that's included coaches everywhere have been affected by these two guys.
Tom Brady, just to go back to Belichick for a second, Tom Brady had a very classy statement yesterday, and in it, I'll paraphrase, right? He said, it isn't even so much all the successes and the Super Bowl trophies that we won. It's the things I learned from Bill Belichick through times of adversity that he'll take away most. So again,
and if you remember, Keith, the 3 Super Bowls he lost were like by 3 points each. I mean, he was
they were close to ones he won.
Yes.
Well, that's true.
I'm just saying. I mean, if you look at it, if you want to look at it, if he could have been 9-0 in Super Bowls too. So I mean, it's crazy how
3-6. Also,
it's true.
I mean,
it's true.
Let me say something about the big 3 that moved on. If the biggest shock was Pete Carroll. Nick Saban, we understand. It came as a big surprise, but he was tired. He just wanted to move on. He's an older guy.
Right.
We were surprised, but he left on his own terms, Nick Saban, 100%. Bill Belichick, we knew it was a 50-50 proposition whether he'd be back. We're not shocked that he's not back. Pete Carroll, I think that was shocking. I don't think anyone saw it coming. Now, the Seahawks disappointed this year, but they were 9-8. They were in the flop. They didn't make the playoffs. They were disappointed. But I couldn't see that coming.
If you listen to what Jim said, that they're selling the Seattle Seahawks, I'm not shocked now after I heard that. I'm not shocked he's going on because normally when a new ownership comes in, they want to run it their way. They don't want nothing left over.
You can also see possibly a big payroll dump there next year, and that team might be very bad next year.
I think
the new ownership
they'll go the way of the Redskins. You watch, Keith. It's going to be.
The Commanders stayed with Ron Rivera, the new ownership, for 1 year because they kind of wanted to get their their house in order and then see, what direction they wanted to go in. But Ron Rivera, had he had a successful season, chances are the new ownership would have moved forward with him.
That's possible. That's possible too.
Yeah.
So let's one thing about the Eagles I want to throw in the package did make a good point was that they do need a defensive coordinator. And guess what? There's a real good one available that just left the Giants that might end up with the Eagles next year. That would be a great fit for him, and knowing the Giants offense and the ball, that would work in the Eagles' favor. So if there's hard feelings there with Wink, maybe that happens. We'll see. That would be pretty interesting. Anyway, so
I think there's some real hard feelings there.
I think there is too, Keith. I think there's some very hard feelings there.
Right.
Anyway, let's push on a little bit to baseball. Big signing by the Yankees, right? They got a pitcher. They got a proposal for another one on the line here. So they pick up Stroham. What do you think, Keith? He talked a lot of trash about the Yankees last year, and all of a sudden he's pitching for them this year.
That's okay. We brought Roger Clemens in here. We brought David Wells in here. And, I like his personality. Again, I talk a lot about guys and personalities and being able to pitch here. I'd rather bring Marcus Stroman in. I'd rather bring Dylan Cease in here than the guy they've also offered a big contract to in Blake Snell. But I think Stroman will do fine. Look at he's pitched well the last few years. Had some injury problems last year, the end of last year, but he had pitched well with the Cubs. I don't think the previous comments are going to matter. That's just, he likes to stir the stuff up. So I think he'll be fine. I like him. I like this move.
I'm not the biggest Marcus Stroman fan, but it's a 2-year commitment at around $18.5 million per year. And if he meets incentives, he has a player option for a third year, meaning he would have done well. But I'm not the biggest Marcus Stroman fan,
as
to be honest. But if you slot him in the rotation as the 4th or 5th starter, I'm fine with that. But I'd much rather would have had Jordan Montgomery or Blake Snell. But I understand the price may have been prohibitive on those.
Well, but Snell's there. They did offer Snell a contract. It's on the table. Strohan, as Keith, there's an injured pitcher again. I don't know. We'll find out.
Well, again, we have this problem all the time, right?
Yeah, we'll find out. If he's, anyway, they did sign Soto to that 1-year contract. I think $35 million.
Well, arbitration. They had to settle with them and go to arbitration. I don't think the Yankees wanted any ill will going to arbitration and arguing against them. It may have decreased their chances of signing next year.
I agree.
Absolutely would have decreased it for sure.
I agree big time. The Knicks, they finally come to a loss against the Mavericks, down 20 in the 4th. They came charging back, barely lost that game at the end. People talking about a bad call. I'm tired of hearing about that. Everybody gets bad calls, it seems.
Part of the game. Never fall into that. Don't let yourself get beat by referees, guys. That's all I can tell you. Don't do that.
So the Knicks finally lose to Dallas. They didn't have. I don't think they had Luke Kickin, did they? Did they play Luke Kickin?
I do not think they did.
Kyrie Irving had a big game. It's worth mentioning. He's kept his head in the game this year, playing basketball for the Dallas Mavericks. None of the silly controversy has come up. He's been doing it the right way for Dallas this year. And they've had a lukewarm, successful year so far.
True. Now, Keith will join us Sunday. He won't be on Saturday's special with us. So let me get your picks for Saturday's game, Keith, so Jack doesn't accuse you of cheating, okay?
So I'll give you all my picks if you want. Are we still 3 favorites and 1 dog still? Is that what we're doing?
No, we pick every playoff game.
Okay.
So,
every playoff game.
Jack, I put it out there, Keith. I tried to help you out. It was a resounding no.
All I'll say is, as you go forward, the next 2 weeks will be okay. But after that, we're all going to take the same team. So because
not if we want to win. Not if we want to win. We're going to have to go opposite, Keith.
When there's 4 games left, you can take 3 favorites and a dog. I mean, I was just saying some of us could take a different dog. You're right.
Yes.
So let me pull this
Just
up.
give
here
me
and I'll give you
Saturdays. Give me Saturdays. You won't be able to ask you Sunday your Sunday's picks.
just in case. My three favorites will be.
They're picking every single playoff game.
We're picking them all? We're picking them all?
Yes.
Oh, all right. I thought, all right. Well, then my request doesn't matter.
No underdog picks unless you like an underdog.
That's all I was getting at. With what I asked you.
You have to have an underdog. We got a spot for underdogs. So
you got to have one underdog of all the picks?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. So we're picking every game. I'll give you Saturday's picks then. I will take Houston.
Okay.
Is that a dog? That's a favorite, right? Yep.
No, Cleveland's favorite over Houston. So
no kidding. There's one of my dogs. I could take more than one dog, though, right? That's my.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay,
why not?
Cool.
Well,
all right. Saturday will be the Texans, and I will take the Chiefs. By the way.
Okay, and the Chiefs. All right. So. All right.
Which nobody will see except those who want to buy Peacock this weekend.
Yes, that's true. And me and Jack will be on Saturday's show, so we'll make our picks for Saturday, and Sunday.
What time are you? I may be able to do something tomorrow. I might pop. We're not going to leave till 9 in the morning, but I got a lot of stuff.
We're only going 8 to 9, but if you can make it, great. If you can't, I did get a couple replacements. So if you got to get ready, Keith, if you can make it, I'll send a link to you. How's that?
Send it to me, and I can pop in for a few minutes if you want.
All right.
If I get a chance.
I think on another note, Keith, with the New England hiring Jared Mayo, he's a Black head coach, and I think the league will be happy about that. And the first Black head coach in New England Patriot history. Okay, so I think that's a hire that the NFL is going to be very happy with, and he's certainly a competent guy, bringing a fresh new look. But to succeed a legend in Bill Belichick, that's hard to do. But considering New England's troubles the last few years, it's not as hard as succeeding Nick Saban at this time.
Yeah, no, and he's very well respected around the league, certainly within the organization. And I think he's a good guy to keep a steady hand on this as we go forward.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a great hire. Vrabel wouldn't have been a bad hiring either. I mean,
no, he wouldn't.
But Mayo, since he's been there, he knows the players and all that good stuff.
Yeah,
that'll kind of give him an advantage there. So, folks, I want to thank you for tuning in this morning. All the comments, all the views. Thank you to Byron WIlliams for coming in early, as he always does on Friday. And, of course, to our friend Keith Engle, one of the best college experts there is, always following the Patriots, loves the Knicks, loves the Yankees, talks bad about them a lot. But this year I will give him back his Yankees card so he can continue being our expert. I
wonder how long I keep it is going to be the question.
We'll see. All right. Folks, again, thanks for Mac and Jack on NESSP in the morning. Have a great Friday. We'll see you tomorrow on the Big Football Show. Great day, folks.